All right, while we're waiting for people to hop on today, go ahead and get this on Facebook. Hello there, Two Brain Team Training World. It is 2 o'clock. I'm coming to you on a Monday today. We had to have a little schedule switcheroo. But if you are potentially watching this on Facebook, what I would love to have you do, I'd love to invite you to do, is actually click the link that I dropped into the comment section and join me on Zoom. This will go a whole lot better if I'm not making things up off the top of my head. I'm really hoping to have some participation. I know some of the normal folks that join me on Tuesday, maybe they've got some schedule conflicts, but would love to have you with me on Zoom today so we can kind of get some good back and forth. The topic of the day today, just to kind of remind everybody, is I'm going to be doing some program design live. I'm going to show you how to basically write a full week of programming in the hour that we have together. So it's actually going to take a lot less time than that because we're going to, do some discovery work, figure out who exactly we're writing this for. And I'm going to show you my process, but I would love to have somebody on here to talk through this with me. Just to kind of give you guys a little bit of a background, this will certainly work with any sort of client that you have, whether it's one-on-one clients, if they are adults, if they're kids, if they want to lose weight, if they want to gain weight. If you are writing your gym's programming, for instance, we have a great service over our partner company, Two Brain Programming, but perhaps you don't partake in that and you or somebody else at your gym writes programming. One of the common themes that I have found in my years working with coaches and gym owners is that they spend an inordinate amount of time on the programming that they're doing for their gym at large relative to the return that it ultimately gives you. So I've commonly seen people just spend hours and hours and hours writing programming. And my belief in what I've seen work for the better part of a decade at my gym now is that you shouldn't be spending more than an hour, or 15 minutes a week, or about an hour for every month of programming that you do. So that's just for the group. For every individual client, because I think of the group environment in your gym as just one client because you're only writing one track of programming. Now, you may adjust it up or down based upon your population, but in general, that is one client. And so the same argument bears out for individual clients that you work on. It should be no more than 15 hours a week, or 15 hours, holy moly, 15 minutes per week, totaling about an hour, maybe a little bit more for the entire month. And several weeks ago, I had a presentation where I actually broke down, how you can kind of increase the value of your time as a coach, especially if you're somebody that works with multiple people. We talked about how to structure things in terms of your programming, your consultations, goal setting sessions, whatever you call it, but just trying to get you to understand how to maximize your time so that your effective hourly rate goes up. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the starting section for this. I'm going to share my screen, but it's going to be a little bit different than normal. Normally, I have slides prepared. Today, we are not doing slides. I'm going to do a whiteboard. So let me just double check that. Okay, you guys do. Okay. All right. So darn it, where'd my whiteboard go? All right. There it is. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is just give this a little bit of a title, a week of programming written live, so that you can see there is no preparation of this whatsoever. So the first thing that we're going to do is just make a couple of agreements with one another. So first, a few agreements. Agreement number one is that we start with assessment. All right. And really, the reason that you're going to start with an assessment, whether it is for your group or for your individual client, is quite simply that it gives us a starting point. So this is pre-starting the programming. We're going to make sure that we have some sort of assessment with the beginning point of where we're at. All right. Number two is we are going to begin with the end in mind. So if somebody, you know, the point B that somebody wants to go to, we've already measured the point A with the assessment. That is where your program design ultimately has to start from. We got to know where they're at, and we got to know where they want to go. So it's not enough to just say they want to get fit. We need to have some defining metrics so that we know as coaches and your clients know as clients that, yes, I have checked the box and I am successful. All right. You don't want to leave it, arbitrary or nebulous or cloudy or anything like that. You want to fixate on a stopping or an end goal as best as you can, recognizing that if I'm moving in the right direction, I may veer off course a little bit here and there. I may change course a little bit here and there if I find a better, more efficient and effective way to get where I'm going. But ultimately, it keeps us moving in the correct positive direction. So begin with the end in mind. Agreement number three is that consistency trumps intensity every day of the week, meaning the greatest analogy that I have for folks on understanding consistency over intensity is this. January 1 is right around the corner. And as gym owners and coaches, we know that this is the time of the year that we see non-exercising folks or people with health and fitness goals. They jump on the bandwagon, they join a gym, and they are gung-ho for like the first 30, 40 days. They might go 30 or 40 days in a row. And then the statistics are overwhelming that 90+% of those people will just stop and they won't start again until the next year rolls around. That is best described as intensity. All right. Consistency, on the other hand, looks like somebody who recently joined your gym and simply comes 3 days per week. So instead of 30, 40 days in a row, they might not actually hit that 30th or 40th class until they are 10, 12, 14 weeks into working out at your facility. But statistically speaking, we also know that these are the people that are most likely to adopt a consistent, healthy behavior change habit for themselves. All right. So those are some initial agreements. And then the last one is we subscribe to basic principles. All right. The basic principles are minimum effective dose. The next one is frequency, intensity, type, and time. And then the final one is the SAID principles, specific adaptation to imposed demand. That basically is a fancy way of saying what you practice, you will get better at. So if you have a client that wants to work on pull-ups and get better at them, yes, strengthening their biceps is going to help. Yes, doing, lat pull downs could help. But at the end of the day, if pull-ups are not practiced, they are not going to get as far as they could if you actually practiced the thing. Okay. So those are the first few agreements that we are going to agree on. And let me take a quick sip of water and make sure I don't have any questions popping up on Facebook. All right. All right. So let's get into it. Let me switch what I am sharing. Let's go stop share there. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you the easiest, most basic set of tools that you need to have at your disposal. Number one, I would recommend a pen or a pencil if you prefer pencils so you can erase. I just prefer to scribble things out. And then number two would be like a legal pad or some sort of paper. So pen and paper is a very, very basic way that you can do this. And then on your pen and paper, you're just going to write down or create 5 columns. And at the top of each column, you're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those correspond to day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and day 5. And just to kind of give you guys the visual of what I am looking for, I'm going to share my, let's see. All right. So hopefully if you guys are watching, it looks like that my Excel spreadsheet is up and live. So if you were on the Zoom call with me, I would ask you to give me a thumbs up. If you're not and you don't see it, just drop a comment into Facebook and you can let me know if you can not see this. So let's get going. So this is how I have done my programming for years. Just to kind of give you context, I do write the programming for my gym. I've done it for all of the 10 years that we've been open. We have gone through different iterations where our coaches will actually take blocks of the year and they'll program 3, 4, 6 months at a time. But currently it's been me for about the past 18 months. I've also programmed for my one-on-one clients that I work for 10 years as well. I've got some that have been with me for almost the full length of time that my gym has been open. And this is the way that I do my programming. So I get a lot of questions from coaches about what sort of software should I use? What app is the best? All that kind of stuff. I am old fashioned, like I showed you my pen and paper. So I love to just write stuff out or put it onto an Excel sheet and I will email stuff. Now, we do also use Wodify at the gym. That's where our group programming gets pushed to. And we have an app where our one-on-one clients get stuff. But personally, when people work with me, this is the majority of what I do is I do it on Excel and then I copy and paste it into an email and send it to them. It makes it easy for me to link videos and stuff like that. The whole point of me going on that small little rant is just to say, you don't need to invest in any expensive software. Could it make things easier and more streamlined? Yes. But if the software is the hurdle that you feel like you're always getting bogged down by, then just put that to the wayside or put that to the side and just start with something simple like pen and paper or an Excel spreadsheet like what I'm showing you here. So this is how I program, like I said, for the gym and then also for all of my individual one-on-one clients. So the first thing that I do is after I have an assessment done, I figure out, okay, from a movement pattern, from a movement pattern specificity, what is their primary thing that they need to actually work on? And so for those of you guys that are not familiar with the 5 fundamental movement patterns at Two Brain Coaching, they are squat, hinge, push, pull, and core. And then within each of them, there are more localized patterns as well. So you could have a hip dominant squat, a knee dominant squat, a hip dominant pull, a knee dominant pull, vertical pushing, horizontal pushing, vertical pulling, horizontal pulling. And then for core, we actually have rotation and anti-rotation. All right. And flexion and extension as well. So those are the lenses that I am always looking at my individual clients through. Okay. So if this was somebody from day one, what I might do first is put out a very simple template like this. I would say, I want day 1 to be primarily a squat day, day 2 to be primarily a hinge day, day 3, a push day, day 4, a pull day. And then I will actually put my core work into one of the other movement pattern days as well. And then I will circle back to day one and start that over there. Okay. So in this particular week, I am looking at squatting twice, hinging once, pushing once, and pulling once. Okay. I said something about core, so I will also have core on a couple of days just like that. And then it is super important for us to do aerobic based work. So I just call it blood flow from head to toe. So you can call this cyclical, you can call it monostructural, you can call it aerobic work. But we're going to do, let's just say, cyclical work on 2 of those days as well. Okay. Now, here is where I think a lot of coaches can kind of overthink things, is they will ask questions. Well, why did you squat on Monday and not on Tuesday? Why are you squatting twice this week and you have cyclical with pull and you have core with push and with squatting? And why don't you do this and that and the other? Okay. The fact of the matter is there are an infinite amount of combinations that you could make for this to be successful. But the first thing that you have to get past is the initial kind of couple of weeks when you are working things out with your client or with your group. Again, if you begin with the end in mind, and this is why I would really encourage somebody to jump onto Zoom and we can work through a specific client together. But if you begin with the end in mind, it really clarifies what I should be doing when, instead of just kind of putting things down and seeing how the chips fall over a long enough time frame. Okay, I hope that makes some bit of sense to you. So the first thing I'm going to do every single time is I'm going to lay out what movement patterns I want where. And then based upon what my client's ability is, that's going to help me define, what is the sets, the reps, the time under tension, all of those kinds of things that I am ultimately going to do with them. So let me pause and take a quick sip of water. So I think here is what I'm going to do. Since I don't have anybody here to work through with a specific client or group that they are working with, what I'm going to do is, this is actually my gym's programming. We already have this entire week done. But what I'm going to do is show you how I walk through and my thought process behind doing the next week of programming. Okay. There's a couple of notes that I will allow you guys, or that I will show you guys as well. Number one, at the beginning of this, I always write down what the week is, just so I know. I know that sounds very silly, but next week, Monday is kind of the day one of our week because we're always closed on Sunday. So I always put, what that week is. It helps me with a couple of things. It just writes my mind for what it is. And then number two, it allows me the ability to look back and say, okay, what did we do the week before? And so if you are, or if you've ever found yourself feeling like you are just programming things at random, it's because you are looking for novelty more than you are looking for consistency and being systematic with your process. And so one of the things that I like about having everything available in a Excel spreadsheet like this is I can go back and look at week after week after week of programming that we have done at my gym and see how we have progressed from a volume standpoint, from a time under tension standpoint, excuse me, all of those kinds of things. So the way that we do things at my gym, because we have a contingent of people that we noticed and we have tracked this for years, that come on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday, and like a Saturday. So I have to be mindful of that. So I will intentionally move things around so that we're not always deadlifting. Like you see, tomorrow we are getting some deadlifting in. So it's not like we are always only deadlifting on Tuesday. So you can see if I go back to the previous week, when did we deadlift, where we're kind of playing around with some fun different implements? Well, it was on a Friday, our day 5. Okay. So the first thing that I do is we always have a structure we have for this block of programming where we have a strength or a skill, And then the next piece is what we call our conditioning. I know a lot of gyms and coaches might call that Metcon work. That's fine. It kind of, in my head, it all means the same thing. All right. So we talked about the fundamental movement patterns, squat, hinge, push, pull, core, and then mixing in cyclical. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And the first thing that I do when I get ready to write the programming for our gym is I look at and say, okay, this week, did I put strength on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or was it Tuesday, Thursday? And then I know this seems super, super elementary, but it keeps things very simple and predictable and structured. Is I'm just going to flip that. So strength was on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of last week, or excuse me, this week. So next week, I'm going to put strength here, and then I'm going to put strength right here. All right. I know, super, super basic. And then I'm going to say we're going to have a skill day on Monday. We're going to have it on Wednesday, and then we're going to move this fun and play day to, excuse me, Wednesday, Friday for the skill day, and then our fun play day to Monday of the following week. All right. So that's the first place to start. And then after that, things can kind of start to fall into place. A little bit more technical thinking, if you will, comes into play. So the first thing that I do is I want to get some really, really simple wins again. So the fun play day, this was the exact same thing. And we're going to continue with that because I'm staying on the pulse of what our clients are liking. And they really like the different implements, using the axle bar, the trap bar, kettlebells, dumbbells. We're not doing any barbell specific work on those days. All right. So we're going to move that to it. And then I'm going to look at my 2 strength days and see what it is that we did this week. So if I scroll back up and show you guys what we have done in the past, this is a new movement that we have been doing in this particular block, the lateral lunge. I believe this is the 2nd week that we had it. Yes, it is. So I want to keep that in the rotation. So I'm going to take this and say lateral lunge is going to move down. Let's see, it was on a Monday. So I'm actually going to move it onto Thursday. And here's the reason why. It's been on a Tuesday, even though we have that Tuesday, Thursday kind of Saturday crowd. It's been on a Tuesday. It's been on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, folks. Well, now what I'm going to do is move it to Thursday. So it's going back to getting focused on that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday crowd that comes in. So I'm going to take a lateral lunge and I'm going to move that to Thursday and put that here. Now, in terms of how do I change progression? Well, I'm going to look at a couple of things. One is just the sheer number of reps that we are challenging them with. So week number 1, we did 24 reps. This morning, I actually was there for this one. We did 36 reps. And so I'm going to increase the volume a little bit, but instead of moving to 4 by 12, we noticed that that was a pretty big jump going from 24 to 36 reps. So I'm actually going to make a decision and say we are going to go 4 sets of 10 on each side. Now, would it be wrong if I left it as 4 sets of 12? No, it's not going to be wrong. But if I go back to the principles that we talked about earlier, I'm thinking of, minimum effective dose. What is something that I can still continue to do that is going to be beneficial for everybody that is there. Okay. So that's the reason why I moved that to 4 sets of 10. And then another easy win is figuring out the other strength day. Now, bench press is something that we have had in our programming for the last several weeks. So you can see this week we're doing a 6 by 3. Last week we did a 5 by 6. The previous week we did a 4 by 8. So I'm actually going to kill that one and not move it into this week. And I'm going to grab the strict chin-ups that we are just introducing this week and put it to next week. Notice this was on a day 5. So I'm going to move this to the Tuesday, Thursday crowd so they get a little bit of that. And all we're going to do is increase it by 1 set. All right. And again, I just want to reiterate at the beginning of the presentation today, I said that if you're doing this well and you're doing it often, the programming should take you about 15 minutes to kind of rifle through. Now, granted, we're trying to fill a lot of time here, but the biggest reason for that is that I am verbally or verbalizing all the things that I am thinking in my head for you to learn, but it would normally just be super automatic and I could just copy paste, switch some things around, and then it wouldn't take more than 15 minutes roughly to get through this. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of context. Let me double check that we don't have any comments waiting on Facebook. All right. If you are watching on Facebook, just again, to reiterate, just click the link and type in the password and you can jump onto Zoom. And then I'd be happy to answer any specific questions that you're seeing pop out right now. Now, okay, continuing on with the skill work. I've got a couple of things of skill work to fill out. Number one, I know I'm going to grab this hollow and arch work on the floor. This is something that we have been working with people on the past couple of weeks. So if I go back and see where this day was, the previous week, this week it's on Thursday. The previous week it was on Wednesday. So I've only got two options. I can either put this Wednesday or Friday. So guess what we're going to do is we're going to move it to Friday. The next thing we need to do is simply adjust what it is. This is my notes. I want to make sure that I keep that. I want to make sure that we are progressing people. So the first week we did a 6-minute EMOM, 20 seconds hollow hold, 20 seconds arch hold. This week we're moving to 30 seconds. So we are increasing the time, but something that we have time and time again is that a 1-to-1 kind of work to rest ratio on these isometric core holding exercises works really, really well. It's just enough to challenge people, but allow them time to recover and make it all the way through this. So instead of adding maybe another 10 seconds, so where I would go 40 seconds hollow hold, 40 seconds arch hold, what I'm going to do on this one is I'm actually going to extend the EMOM out. All right. And that's just going to allow us to build volume. So we did 3 rounds of each of these. That gives us the 6-minute EMOM. This time we're going to do 8 minutes, and that will give us 4 rounds of each of those. So I'm going to switch that to 8 minutes. Okay. Now, the last thing that we need to do is figure out, okay, what is the last skill piece, or what is the last, little piece that I need to fit in and do on Wednesday, which is the day 3 skill piece. So you can see we've already taken a bunch of stuff from the previous weeks. Right now, what I'm actually going to do is nothing. The reason for that is not an easy win for you as a coach to do first. The easy win is this very next step where I take and copy this. I know this seems so silly, but trust me, momentum is your friend whenever you are doing programming like this. So I'm just going to go through and copy and paste this conditioning work, or this conditioning header. And that keeps my momentum going in the programming kind of headspace. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take a look and see what movement patterns I need to make sure I am balancing across all of the days. So we're doing a little bit of fun play deadlift stuff here on Monday. We're doing some upper body vertical pulling here on Tuesday. We're doing some single leg work, some unilateral work, squatting on Thursday, and then some focused core work on Friday. So now we need to think about balancing things out. So what I'm looking for here is just something that stands out to me to make sure that I am getting some sort of bilateral squat in. So right now, the only squatting that I can see on the programming is this. Why am I starting with squatting? Because it's just the first thing that popped into my head. And whenever I recite the fundamental movement patterns, it's always squat first, squat, hinge, push, pull, core. That's just the way that it flows off my tongue. It might have been hinge for you, or pulling or pushing. It doesn't really matter. Just start somewhere. So I know that Thursday is a day that I'm doing some unilateral squatting. I don't want to double that up with bilateral. I'm going to put that onto a Monday or Tuesday, or excuse me, a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. The other things that I want to think about is the impact that this is going to have the day after. So if I do have somebody that comes on Thursday and shows up Friday, if I give them a heavy dose of bilateral squatting following the unilateral squatting on Thursday, that's going to be pretty spicy for them to recover, adapt, and progress from. So I'm going to actually move this over here to Monday. So what sort of squatting do I want? I don't know quite yet, but I'm just going to use this as a placeholder. All right. And even though the next thing that I look at is hinging, even though we are doing a little bit of deadlifting, we're not really categorizing that as something that is really intensive. It's more just a fun or a play thing. So even though we have that on Monday, it doesn't mean that I'm looking to say that that movement pattern has been fulfilled for the week. All right. So the hinging that I did this week was actually this morning. We did some deadlifting. So I know that I want to put it onto either Tuesday or Thursday. Since we're already doing a pretty intensive lower body piece on Thursday, what I'm going to do is put this here on Tuesday. Okay, so you can kind of see this thing starting to take shape in terms of the way that I'm actually going to program for the gym for this week. So we've got squatting, we've got hinging. Let's take a look at pushing. Do I have any pushing? And I don't actually have any pushing here at all. So I've got squat, hinge, pull, another squat, a core movement. Okay, so I need to get a little bit of pushing somewhere. So what I'm looking at is, where can I put that at? I could obviously combine it on any day because it's not anywhere else. So what I'm going to do now is go back up here and see where I might have done a good bit of pushing on this. So this one definitely stands out because I've got bench press, I've got strict press with a weight plate, I've got tricep extensions. Those are all very push heavy. So I want to actually move this onto a Monday or a Tuesday. The reason being is I also looked ahead to this and see that I was doing a decent bit of pushing on my day 5. And I'm doing a little bit here with upper body pushing vertical on Thursday. So we haven't had any pushing on this day. So I'm going to put that here. And how do I decide if I want to do vertical or horizontal? Well, I take a look back and see what we have done here. So we did vertical, horizontal, vertical, vertical. This is vertical push. This is horizontal push. So I'm going to do a horizontal push here. All right. And again, if you are watching on Facebook and you want to join in, please just click the link in the Facebook comment and I'll see that you are trying to get in. Let me make sure nobody else is. See that you're trying to get in. I will let you in and you can poke holes, ask questions, point things out. Please, it is a free-for-all. I want this to be super valuable for you guys. Okay, so get back to putting this together, making sure that we have something that looks like some semblances of a workout. So we just went over push. Now we're going to look at pull. So obviously I have an upper body vertical pull here on Tuesday. And if I look back to this week that is right now, I do consider toes to bar to be an upper body pulling movement. It's kind of a combination of vertical and horizontal, but I would argue more horizontal. We had that on Monday. And then the other pulling that we have this week is on Friday. So we've got a Monday and Friday. So I know that I want to make sure that I do some sort of horizontal pulling this week to kind of balance things out. So I'm going to put that here. And I'm going to say pull horizontal. Okay. And we'll go over exactly what that might look like there. All right. So we've got pull horizontal and we've got core here. Now, we did have some toes to bar work on Monday of this week. This morning, like I said, is actually when I did this one. So perhaps because that's a really intensive kind of flexion and extension core piece, what I might do is some rotational work. And we've had folks, excuse me, really come to enjoy the Russian twist with a med ball. And I know that we've done that recently. So I'm going to drop this one right into here. And can't spell. Whoops. Russian med ball twist. Okay. All right, moving right along. So now we've got some things coming together. All right, but we are kind of missing out on a little bit of this over here. And then again, I know we said that this has a big kind of empty area. So here's what we're going to do next. I'm going to take a look at the difference between couplets and triplets and even kind of chipper style workouts, if you're familiar with that term, and then look back and see how it compares to the previous week, which is the current week right now. So this week we have triplet. We've got, this is actually, one movement. I just split it up left and right, but we've got a lot of different movements there. So there's actually 5 movements in that one. This one has got 5 or 6 movements, or excuse me, four movements in that, because the box jump is just repeated 3 different places, a couplet, and then a couplet over there. So we had a couple of workouts with good variety in this week. So I just want to make sure that we are giving enough variety such that we don't overuse one specific area too much. And so that's why I'm really cautious on how many couplets I will program with things like this, is because if you're letting people just rep things out either for a longer AMRAP, or if you're trying to sandwich in a lot of volume and intensity into a small time frame, you're really going to exacerbate the chance for overuse type injury. So I'm very careful about that. So when in doubt, I'm always looking, how can I add cyclical type pieces into this? So just an interesting sidebar. I think it's really important for you guys to know your clients when they come, and kind of the feel and the vibe of your class structure. So the reason that I bring that up is I have a group of amazing women that come to the 9 a.m. Monday class. Excuse me. That's the one that I work out with too. And they made a comment several weeks ago about us always doing running on Monday. And the funny part is that we actually had not ran on Monday in a couple of weeks. My coach kindly pointed that out to them, but I had some fun with them a couple of weeks ago, and I programmed something called No Run Monday. But because we haven't had any running Monday, and I know that I can generate some good conversation, I'm actually going to put that into the workout here. And now this is just part of me knowing what we have done a lot of lately. We have had a lot of longer runs, even though you see the 200 here. So I'm actually just going to program a 200-meter run right there. And then this is just something that I am seeing here. I like the fact that we're using a med ball on Tuesday, but I want to give my Monday people a chance to use the med ball as well. So I'm going to turn this bilateral squat into a wall ball, and that takes care of that. And it gives me a little bit of horizontal pushing, but mostly I think we all know that wall balls are legs and breathing. So I'm going to put that there. I'm still going to leave this as a placeholder as I think through things, and I'm just going to continue to move on. So hinge piece, what are we going to do for the hinge on this Tuesday? Well, we did a little bit of deadlifting, even though that was for fun that day. We did deadlifting in the workout here. We've done a little bit of dumbbell hang clean and jerk. We did that, or we're doing that on this coming Thursday. So what I'm going to do for these folks right here is I'm actually going to look at a hinge, but I'm going to make it a kettlebell swing. And I'm just going to abbreviate that and put kettlebell swing. Kettlebell swing, we have actually been building volume in terms of how many repetitions each set that we are doing. So if I look back to right here, we had a workout a couple weeks ago. This is actually last week, where each time we came to the kettlebell, which it was only twice, we did 30 swings, so 60 total, but 30 at a clip is not too bad. So what I might end up doing here is saying, we're going to go 75 swings-ish, somewhere right around there, which would be about 15 swings, and I'll turn this into 5 rounds. So that helps me to control the volume. Now, the Russian med ball twist, I also know that every set that we've been doing, we've been creeping the volume up steadily. The last time that we did it was 24 reps every time that they did a set of these. So what we are going to do with this is bump it up just a little bit. So we're going to go from 24 to 30. All right. Now, if you're doing the math, yes. Does that seem like a lot? Potentially. But again, if we go back to the agreements that we made at the very beginning of this, a couple of things you have to consider. Number one, where is your client starting from? And so I've kind of talked you through, everything that has happened with this program that we are walking through right now. Is there has been these little milestones or these little progressions where we have inched up to where the client can handle this amount of volume. It's not like we're doubling it overnight. I'm a big fan of like 10, 12, maybe 15% increases in repetitions. That's a very big generality, but just something right in there is what I've found to be sustainable in terms of progression for folks. Let me make sure nobody has any questions right now. All right, looking good so far. So we've actually got day 2 completely done. So I can almost just kind of check this off the list to say that day is good to go. All right, and we'll talk through what this looks like at the end. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is look at where I can put some more cyclical modalities into place. So we've got a little bit of running on Monday, so that means on Tuesday and Thursday, one of those days, I want to make sure that I am doing something from a cyclical standpoint, because you can see here, I've got running on this week, and I don't really have it anywhere else in the week. All right, but going back here, we had rowing, we had some double unders, we had some running. So what I'm going to do is actually, this is a fun combination. We have row, and we could put row 15 cal. All right. And then my horizontal pull, ironically, I get a little bit of a horizontal pull while I am rowing, but I also know that I want to have a little bit more of a strength focus on that, where the legs are not assisting me in my horizontal pull. So I'm going to turn this into a ring row. Now, what we found at our gym, ring rows particularly are one of those movements that seem so elementary and easy for folks to do, but they certainly can burn the arms out and give people this sensation that they are doing something that is working, that is very beneficial. So psychologically speaking, I also think it's a smart movement for people to put in just because of that. So from the ring row perspective, we have been working our way up in volume on these things. And we have found that right now, I think we're sitting at, I look back and see, we did 40 in this, 20 per clip. So I'm actually going to turn this into 24 ring row. And just because I like numbers, I'm kind of a nerd in the fact that I like numbers that, either they're double or there's some sequential movement up. I'm going to move this down to 12. So you can see this is where, if you want some sort of creativity, this is where you can kind of insert it. But I'm also mindful of the volume and the repetitions overall, not so much in a rowing stroke, but in something like a ring row, kettlebell swing, Russian med ball twist, like I've talked about earlier. Sorry, I think I inhaled a bunch of smoke. We had a fire going this weekend. It's been super cold here in Florida, and I know all my northern friends are laughing, but we did have a fire going, and I think I got a bunch of smoke stuck in the old lungs. All right, so this is a good one. This is coming together quite nice. We've got a ring row, and then we are going to row 12 calories. Another thing that we could do is look back and see that we've got a lateral lunge. I don't want this to be just another couplet, because that could get just really bad for somebody's arms really, really quickly doing just those movements back to back for any length of time. So what I'm going to do is actually insert something like a, let's see, we've got a cyclical piece. And again, this is, you're seeing it like in real time, me thinking through this. We've got a cyclical piece in the row. We've got an upper body pull here. I don't need any more hinging on this day because it's Tuesday, Thursday. We've got squatting. Maybe what we could do here is insert a pushing movement, but I'm going to actually separate these things out. So a pushing movement, say we've got a horizontal push here. just to make sure that this is really, really fun for folks. They love these hand release push-ups. And then over here, what I'm going to do is allow them to get a barbell in their hands. And I'm going to say barbell or dumbbell. I'm just going to leave it open and I'm going to say push press. So now how many push press? Well, we're going to go from 12 to 24. That's a difference of 12 reps. I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to say 18 push press. Now, knowing that I've got a 12 cal row, as the workout gets longer, that is going to take a longer and longer piece of time. The ring row is going to take a longer and longer piece of time. This is one of those things where as a coach, there's no wrong answer on should this be a task or a time priority, meaning should I control the volume and say this is going to be like, and I'm just throwing a number out there, should this be 10 rounds for time? Should it be a 10-minute AMRAP? There's no wrong answer other than not paying attention to what the results look like when you actually put it into practice for your people. Now, if I was to do 10 rounds for time, 240 ring rows and 180 push press, that's probably pushing things a little bit way too far. But if I say, you know what, taking this out to, 12 minutes, 16 minutes, that would actually play nicely with all these other numbers. And so I'm just going to use that as a placeholder. So this is a day that I can mark off and say is done as well. Okay. Now, one of the things that we will do at the end is we'll look at the whole week and say, do we think that this is nice and balanced? What could we change? What could we potentially do differently? So the next place that I go is back to this one here. We've already got a triplet pretty much worked out. Now we just need to figure out what the reps are. The way that I look at this is the run is going to take on average about a minute, maybe as things start to fatigue out, maybe a minute 20, maybe for some of the slower folks, it might take a minute 30. Hand release push-ups, depending upon what the rep scheme is, those can certainly start to add up. So what I'm going to do is actually make this a little bit longer of a workout. And we're going to say this is a 20-minute AMRAP. And we're going to say wall balls. I don't want to completely kill them, but we're going to say it's 20. Half of 20 is 10. And then run 200. So this could be a day, excuse me. Apologize for having to clear my throat so much. So far we're 3 out of 5 days done. And again, like I said, this is taking longer than the 15 minutes that I said it should earlier, just because I'm thinking out loud for you guys, things that would actually just happen a lot more automatically. And I would just make decisions and move on. And that would be that. Okay. So the next day that we've got a pretty good handle on is this Friday. So now this is where you can kind of start to look at process of elimination. So I've got a bilateral squat and a unilateral squat. I've got some hinging with the kettlebell swing. And let's see, do we do any other hinging besides this? No, I don't. So I'm actually going to say that we are going to do another hinge movement over here. I don't want it to be a deadlift because we did deadlifting on this day. But we have been working on a single arm devil's press lately. So again, I'm a fan of, like we agreed on earlier, basic principles, specific adaptation to impose demand. So I want to give them time to practice this and get better at it. Okay. Single arm devil's press. Okay. And we did a workout the other week. Where was it here? Where we had alternating and we went up to sets of 30 and that absolutely crushed people. But it was a nice combination between the devil's press and the row. And I bookmarked this. That's why I highlighted it green as something that I wanted to try a different variation on. So if you look at this, we had 1,000-meter row, 750, 500, 250. Ended up being 2,500 meters of rowing and 60 devil's press. Now, it just so happens if you divide that by 5, you come out with 5 rounds of a 500-meter row and 12 single arm devil's press. So that one is now done. And that was pretty easy when I take a look at where we've been. We've been here. I know I wanted to do something related to that. I'm going to put it here. I know maybe what you're thinking is we're rowing back-to-back days. I'm not worried about this. Like I said, this is my Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday crew. The likelihood of them coming in and hitting both of these days is slim to none. If it does happen, no problem. These are definitely two different styles of rowing that they're going to be getting a stimulus from here. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But now this is either, if you want to look at it as the easiest thing to do or the toughest thing to do, is figure out, what do I want to do on this day? And so one of the things that we have figured out is that our gym loves to have one longer kind of chipper style day, but we do it with a lot of cyclical modalities. We do it with a lot of isometric carries and holds. And so I just spitball a couple of ideas back and forth where I think about row, run, double under, and then I have something core, carry, and then I have something like a, let's see, strict work. And then I go back and I copy this again. And this is a common thing that we have done in the past that works really, really well. And so this is kind of the format of a longer chipper style workout. And then what I say here in the skill work is I actually go up here and we end up calling this movement prep and strategy. Okay, so core carry, we're going to turn that into, see, this week we have a farmer carry 75 feet. What we're going to do is call this a suitcase carry. So that's a single arm farmer's carry if you're not familiar with it. So you hold a dumbbell or a kettlebell to your side, don't let it touch, walk nice and upright. And we're going to say that we're going to go 100-meter suitcase carry left. We're going to go move this stuff down. This is why it's nice to work on Excel too, guys, just because it makes it relatively easy to switch things around. 100-meter suitcase carry right. So that will, our running route is 200 meters. So we can go halfway around the building with the left side, halfway around the building with the right side. We can do double under work. We could do running work, rowing work. We actually leave that open for them. And then strict work, this can be anything that they want to work on. Okay. And again, we leave this open-ended and the coach actually works with them prior to 3, 2, 1, go to figure out, okay, what exactly do you want to do? So we do core carry work here. And then we can do, so we did kind of like some anti-rotation. Now we're going to do flexion and extension. So that can be something like a ab mat sit up. And we could do, we want them to work for about 30 seconds, give or take. So we say 25 ab mat sit-ups. And then we want them to do another sort of carry. So we're going to give them waiters walk. And we're going to go 100-meter waiters walk left, 100-meter waiters walk right. Oh, messed that all up, didn't I? Should have copied the other one. Okay. Now, is this perfect this particular day here? No, but I wanted to kind of push pause on this and talk you through with the last couple of minutes that we got. What I do when I've got pretty much all of my programming skeletoned out. So if I was doing this without talking through a video with you guys to figure out, okay, why am I doing this? What should I do here? What should I do there? Getting to this point would probably take me about 8 minutes, maybe 9 or 10 minutes on a bad day. And then the remainder is just kind of refining things. And what I'm looking for is just any sort of or a lapse in judgment in terms of what I was doing based around where we've been and where we ultimately want to go. And then also taking into account that there are people in our gym. There's a very few, it's a minority, but there are a few people in the gym who do come every day. And so I want to make sure that if they are, that it's going to be doable for those folks. And so that's the first thing that I look at. And I think about myself. If I come on this day, am I going to be okay to do this day? Okay. If I come this day, am I going to be okay here? And so on and so forth throughout the week. So I take a look at those discrepancies. The next thing that I look at is just, I already know that I progress things properly, where we went from 3x12 to 4x10, strict chin-ups and all that kind of stuff. Then I just want to consider workouts themselves, the conditioning pieces. How many repetitions am I thinking that these people are going to get through? And really, does it fit within the progressions that we have been working towards? Okay. And then the final thing, and this is kind of the art of coaching or the art of programming, is, are these workouts going to be well presented? Are they going to flow correctly for my gym? So I'll give you a great example. Something that we cannot do just because of the setup at our gym is have a workout with wall balls and anything else on the rig. So if we do wall balls and pull-ups, wall balls and toes to bar, it doesn't work well because our wall ball targets are actually attached all the way around the rig. And it makes it very uncomfortable, to have to be worrying about a wall ball splitting your noggin right open as somebody is doing pull-ups or as you're doing pull-ups. So you have to be mindful of that. And then just the overall flow for other workouts, for us, when we suitcase carry, you actually end up back at the beginning of our facility after you've gone 200 meters. So you've got to be mindful of that and not just write cool looking workouts. You've got to write really effective, efficient workouts that work within the constraints of your space as well as your people. All right. So that was a long monologue from me. If you are watching this back and you're like, wait a minute, why did you do this? You didn't point out this. Please, by all means, let me know, and I'd be happy to answer questions. If you have specific questions about clients or your gym programming, by all means, if it relates to this stuff, I'd be happy to answer it for you. So you can email me, josh@twobraincoaching.com. Otherwise, I'm going to stop my screen share, and I will see you guys back here next week. Take care, guys.